They say tinnitus is just a ringing in your ears. But mine talks to me. At first, I thought it was stress. Then, lack of sleep. Then I started hearing names, places, screams. I told myself it was all in my head until I found the photograph. Me, standing in front of a burned-down house. Smiling. Holding a little girl I don't remember. But the date on the back? It was 3 weeks before the fire. 3 weeks before she died. And according to the records, she never existed. It started the way so many problems do, quietly, almost innocently. A high-pitched ring in the back of Alex Madsen's ears after a long night of editing insurance claims. He was 34, living alone in a rented duplex outside Asheville, North Carolina, and had recently been prescribed Xanax for the panic attacks that started out of nowhere 3 months ago. He told himself it was work stress, sedentary life, too much coffee, maybe the isolation. But the ringing didn't fade. It grew. Not louder, but deeper. Like it had a shape, a tone. At first, it just annoyed him. Then it started at night, pulsing in sync with his heartbeat, vibrating like distant electricity through a storm cloud. It got under his skin. He stopped sleeping more than 2 or 3 hours at a time. Dark circles pooled under his eyes, and his reflection began to look like someone else, someone meaner, someone colder. The whisper came 3 weeks in. He just shut off his laptop when he froze in the middle of his living room. A sound, just for a second, cut through the static. A voice. Not from the walls. Not from the outside. From inside the ringing. And it said one word, Marjorie. He dropped the glass of water he was holding. It shattered across the hardwood like gunfire. Hello, he said aloud, irrationally. Who's there? The room was silent again. Only the buzz. The ceiling fan hummed above. Outside, a dog barked and the wind pressed wet leaves against the window pane. But something changed after that night. He began to notice faces. In dreams, in static, in the ripples of street puddles. A girl, maybe 6 or 7, standing in a blue dress, barefoot, with a solemn expression. Watching him. He couldn't remember having nieces or sisters or any children in the family. He called his mother, just to check. Marjorie, she repeated, her voice tight with confusion. I don't know any Marjorie, honey. Are you okay? But her tone changed after that. She asked if he'd been taking his meds, if he was sleeping enough, if he wanted to come home for a few days. He brushed it off. It's nothing. Maybe I just misheard. But he hadn't. The next night, the name came again. This time, followed by 3 more words. You killed her. Alex shot up from the couch in a cold sweat. The room swam around him. Something in his chest twisted tight, like memory clawing up a blocked pipe. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. By morning, his email inbox was full of glitchy spam messages. Random characters. Images that wouldn't load. One of them had a subject line. Do you remember the fire? His hand trembled as he opened it. No message inside. Just a single attachment, a photo. It took him a full minute to realize the man in the picture was him. But he had no memory of ever being there. No memory of the girl whose hand he was holding. No memory of the house behind them, already burned, blackened like a corpse. At the bottom corner of the image, scribbled in fading pen. March 12, 2023. Marjorie's last day. Alex stared at it, trying to breathe, trying to make sense. But all he could hear was the ringing, growing louder. The photograph didn't disappear when he looked away. It wasn't a hallucination. It lay in his downloads folder like an open wound, dated, named, and impossible to explain. Alex stared at it for hours, replaying every angle of the image. The background was a scorched house, windows shattered, roof caved in, ivy growing wild up the side like nature reclaiming tragedy. His own face was younger, maybe by a year. His hair slightly longer, beard trimmed, smiling, relaxed. But it was the girl that held his focus. She was small, her hand tucked confidently into his, her eyes haunting. A subtle smile played across her mouth, not like a happy child, but one who knows more than she should. He zoomed in, heart pounding. Her dress had little sunflowers. Her feet were black with soot. One ankle was bruised. Who the hell are you? He whispered. By morning, he was outside a county records office in Hendersonville, trying to track down the property from the background. It took hours, describing it to a clerk who didn't understand why he didn't just have an address. Eventually, he found it, on file as condemned following residential fire, March 15, 2023. The owner listed was a Marion C. Ledbetter. Alex blinked. That name didn't help. He didn't know any Ledbetters. He jotted down the location and drove. The house was still there. Or at least, the skeleton of it was. Blackened timber stood like ribs overgrown with kudzu. The yard was a marsh of forgotten toys, scattered bricks, and yellow crime scene tape that had long since surrendered to time. Standing in front of it sent a nausea through Alex's chest that no logic could soothe. Something happened here. Something big. He didn't remember it, but his body did. He walked the perimeter. No signs of life. No neighbors came out. A few cars passed and didn't slow down. He ducked under the collapsed awning and made his way through the open door frame. Inside, everything was charred and broken, but the heat of the fire was long gone. He stepped over a melted plastic tricycle, a rotted mattress, scorched picture frames with the faces burned away. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a warning. Then something moved. Not physically, something in his head. A low, vibrating hum began in his ears, deeper than the usual tinnitus. It pushed against the inside of his skull. His hands flew up, gripping his temples. "She called you Daddy," a voice hissed from inside the sound. "And you let her burn." Alex fell to his knees. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. When he stumbled out of the house 10 minutes later, he vomited in the grass. His phone buzzed. A new email. No subject line. No sender. Just 2 words in the body of the message. "Keep digging." He dropped the phone, chest heaving. Something was happening to him, something that couldn't be rationalized as stress, or sleep deprivation, or even madness. Because when he got back in the car and looked in the rearview mirror, the little girl was sitting in the back seat, barefoot, watching him, and smiling. Alex slammed on the brakes so hard the seatbelt snapped him back. He turned, heart hammering, mouth dry. The back seat was empty. Just his worn gym bag, a crushed coffee cup, and 2 weeks' worth of unopened mail. But he saw her. For a second, he felt her presence, like a shift in air pressure, or the phantom warmth someone leaves behind on a seat. He didn't drive home. Couldn't. Instead, he parked in the lot of an old gas station and sat motionless for nearly an hour, windows rolled down, listening to the wind, to traffic, to silence, anything but the low, taunting buzz inside his skull. "She called you Daddy." The words rattled around like marbles in a glass jar. The voice hadn't sounded like his own thoughts. It was something else. Familiar, but twisted. Eventually, he opened his laptop. He Googled Marjorie and fire and Ledbetter and filtered the results by March 2023. There were articles, obscure, small-town local news coverage from a place called Woodfin. A house fire. 1 fatality. He clicked on the first link. Tragedy struck a Woodfin neighborhood this past Sunday when a fire destroyed a home on Pleasant Valley Road. While the official cause is still under investigation, authorities have confirmed 1 fatality. The victim, believed to be a young girl between the ages of 6 and 8, has yet to be identified. The only other resident, 66-year-old Marion Ledbetter, was found deceased from a heart attack on the front porch, presumably while attempting to call for help. No name. No photo. No father. No Alex Madsen. His name didn't come up anywhere. Not in the witness list. Not in the coroner's report. But the girl had no name. No parents. No family. He refreshed the photo on his laptop. The burned house. The girl. His hand holding hers. How was that possible? He stared at the image until the screen dimmed. Then opened his calendar. On March 12th, the date on the back of the photograph, there was nothing. A blank Sunday. But when he clicked deeper into the metadata of the photo file, it said it had been downloaded to his device 2 days ago from his own email address. His heart stopped. He checked his sent folder. It was there. Sent to himself. No message. Just the attachment. But the IP address attached to the sending device was not his home. It was traced to a public Wi-Fi spot 20 miles north, in a rundown motel called Whispering Pines Lodge. The same motel he vaguely remembered staying in for a weekend when he'd blacked out drunk 3 months ago. He never remembered why he went there. Just woke up with a dead phone and 2 missing days. Trembling, he got in the car and drove. The lodge was even more decrepit than he remembered. A rusted metal sign. A gravel lot. A skeletal old man behind the check-in counter, watching him through cataract-clouded eyes. "You were here before," the man said without prompting, voice like dry paper. "Room 6. You left in the middle of the night." Alex tried to play it cool. "Did I? Didn't say goodbye. Left a mess." He slid a key across the desk anyway. Room 6 was at the far end of the row. As he unlocked the door, a wave of dread flooded him. The bed was still unmade. Mildew clung to the walls. Something about the smell made his stomach turn, sweat, metal, and faint char. He pulled open the drawer of the nightstand. Inside, a child's toy, a broken plastic butterfly wand, scorched at the tip. There was something else beneath it, a driver's license. His own. Only the name wasn't Alex Madsen. It was Daniel Carter. Same photo. Same face. Different name. Different life. Alex stumbled back. The walls began to close in. His ears buzzed louder, high-pitched and furious, like static before a transmission. And then clearly, perfectly, he heard her voice. "You said you'd never leave me again." The name echoed inside his head like a gunshot in a cave. Daniel Carter. The license was official, embossed seal, magnetic stripe, even the faint DMV watermark. It hadn't been faked. It had been his. He stared at it, running his thumb over the laminated surface. The issue date was 5 years ago. The address listed was somewhere in Boone, North Carolina. His birthday was still August 17th, but the year was different. 2 years earlier. "Who the hell am I?" he whispered. He sat on the motel bed, heart hammering. The television blinked blue behind him, filling the room with a flickering ghost light. The child's toy on the nightstand mocked him with its silent accusation. He picked it up. The plastic felt melted in places. Burned. A memory flickered. No, not a memory, a feeling. Heat. Panic. Smoke curling around him. A small hand in his. A voice yelling something, "Daddy, it's hot." Then nothing. The noise in his ears exploded into a high scream. He doubled over, clutching his head. And then the voice returned. "She waited. She screamed for you." "Stop it," he shouted. He opened the drawer again. Beneath the license was a yellowed envelope with handwriting he instantly recognized as his own. Inside was a note. "If you're reading this, it means you started remembering. Don't trust the name they gave you. Don't go to the police. You've already tried. Boone is the key. She's buried there, but not the way you think." He drove to Boone in a daze. The mountain town was quaint, surrounded by thick forest and steep hills, summer rain washing over the windshield as he climbed the winding roads. He stopped only once, for gas and to look himself in the eye in the bathroom mirror. He didn't recognize the man staring back. At the address listed on the license, 221, Redbridge Lane, he found a small, crumbling farmhouse. It looked abandoned. Nature had overtaken the yard. Weeds sprouted through the porch slats. The mailbox hung off its post like a broken limb. He pushed the door open. Inside, dust hung in the air like fog. Faded photographs curled on the mantel, none with faces he could place. But one caught his breath, the little girl, Marjorie, sitting at a piano, smiling. Her eyes locked to the camera. And behind her, him. Not just in the background. Standing over her, hands on her shoulders. Proud. Parental. Present. He stumbled back, heart racing. In the corner of the room, an old upright piano stood covered in a white sheet. He tore it off. Dust exploded into the air. He sat on the bench. Lifted the lid. A single note rang out as he pressed a key. Then something inside the piano clinked. He reached in. A small, rusted tin set hidden under the strings. He pried it open. Inside, a charred baby tooth, a bracelet made of plastic beads, and a folded-up court document. His hands shook as he unfolded it. Petition for termination of parental rights, Daniel Carter versus Child Protection Services. Date, October 2021. Reason, negligence, emotional instability, and danger to minor child, Marjorie Carter, age 6. Below that, scrawled in the margins in red ink, furious and unsteady, was one sentence. "They took her from me before I burned." Alex, or Daniel, dropped the paper. His breath left him like a lung punctured. He hadn't just lost his daughter. He'd forgotten her. And something inside him whispered that maybe that was on purpose. Rain hammered the farmhouse roof as Daniel sat paralyzed at the old piano, the court document slipping from his fingers onto the floor. It felt like the room was shrinking. The air was thick, almost unbreathable. He wasn't Alex Madsen. That was the lie. Somehow, at some point, he had become someone else. A whole new name. New apartment. New job. A clean slate etched over scorched ground. But why? And who helped him do it? He picked up the court document again, examining the red ink. The handwriting didn't match his. Someone else had written that angry message. He searched the farmhouse. The rooms were mostly empty, cloaked in dust and decay. But in a box beneath a warped bed frame, he found more evidence of a life he couldn't remember. A photo album. A crayon drawing labeled "Me and Daddy." A lock of auburn hair taped to a page with the word "First Cut" scrawled underneath. And a restraining order. Filed against Daniel Carter. By a woman named Ellen Whitaker. His ex-wife? He had no memory of her. But the document was real. The address listed matched a place in Morganton 2 hours south, filed just 3 months before the fire. And on the final page, typed in dry legal prose, a chilling phrase jumped out at him. Subject exhibits dissociative episodes, auditory hallucinations, paranoia, and suicidal ideation. Daughter reports frequent disappearances, screaming fits, and talking to people who aren't there. Daniel staggered backward, nearly tripping over the tin box. He hadn't just forgotten Marjorie. He might have been dangerous to her. Could he have caused the fire? Could he have blacked out? Dissociated? Forgotten? Or had someone made him forget? That night, he stayed in the farmhouse. He couldn't bear going back to the motel. Couldn't face another version of himself in the mirror. He lay on the dusty couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to the buzz in his ears like a warning he still didn't understand. At 3:17 a.m., he woke with a start. The piano was playing. 3 soft notes. Over and over again. He crept to the living room. No one was there. But the keys were pressed down, physically held, by something unseen. And behind him, in the dark hallway, a whisper. I waited in the closet when it got hot. You told me not to move. He spun around. Nothing. Just empty air. But his body felt it. A chill that passed through skin and bone. He fell to his knees, sobbing. The truth wasn't just that he'd forgotten her. It was that she remembered everything. And she was still here. Some part of her. Or maybe, some part of him. The next morning, he drove to Morganton. He found Ellen's name listed as a nurse at a rehabilitation center on the outskirts of town. He didn't know what he expected, a tearful reunion, maybe? A confrontation? But when she opened the employee entrance door and saw him standing there, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply whispered, You weren't supposed to find us again. Ellen Whitaker's voice was steady, but her eyes told a different story. Wide. Haunted. Braced for a storm that had finally come home. Daniel's voice cracked. You know who I am? I knew who you were, she said. But you're not him anymore. That was the whole point. He followed her to a break room behind the rehab center, small and sterile with flickering fluorescent lights. She didn't offer him a seat. I need to know what happened, he said. I need to know who Marjorie was to me. To you. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured herself coffee. She was our daughter. The world swayed. Not because of the words, because of how certain they sounded coming from her. He waited, breath hitching. You were Daniel Carter, Ellen continued. We met in college. You were brilliant. Intense. We married fast. When Marjorie was born, you were different. Something shifted in you. It started slow. Memory lapses. Night terrors. Then voices. Gaps in time. You'd disappear for hours, days, sometimes, and come back with no recollection. His throat dried. I had. What? Schizophrenia. No, she said. Dissociative identity disorder. And you refused to believe it. Said it was just stress. Said the system was trying to take your mind, your daughter. You got paranoid. Dangerous. He swallowed hard. The fire. Her lips quivered. I don't know what happened that night. You weren't supposed to be near her. CPS had temporary custody. But you took her. Broke into the foster home. You said you needed to undo the damage. You told her you were going to take her somewhere safe. I don't remember, he whispered. I believe that, she said, finally sitting across from him. That's what terrified me the most. You didn't remember taking her. You didn't remember the fire. You showed up at a hospital 40 miles away, covered in soot and screaming about a girl in the walls. He pressed his palms to his eyes. The tinnitus rang like a distant scream. They ruled it an accident. You weren't charged. The system deemed you mentally unfit, and they offered you something. Some program. Experimental. For veterans and trauma patients. Cognitive reprogramming. You took it. You chose to forget. I chose this. Daniel's voice cracked. You begged for it, she said. You said you'd rather lose every memory than live with what you did. He stood. The floor seemed unstable. Then why is it all coming back now? Because something always survives, she said. No matter how deep you bury it. That's what they don't tell you. He stared at her. Why didn't you stop me? Tears welled in her eyes. Because I saw what it was doing to you. You loved her, Daniel. God help me. You did. But you couldn't protect her from yourself. I thought maybe forgetting was mercy. He backed away, dizzy. I think she's still with me. Ellen didn't laugh. Didn't deny it. She looked him in the eye and said, She always said she'd come back if you ever remembered. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A voicemail. No number. Just static. Then, A child's voice. "I'm cold, Daddy. Why didn't you open the door?" Daniel's scream caught in his throat. Daniel stood in the parking lot of the rehab center long after Ellen went back inside, the sky above him a flat gray sheet pressing down. The voicemail repeated in his ears even after he deleted it. "I'm cold, Daddy. Why didn't you open the door?" He drove in silence. Not back to the motel. Not back to the farmhouse. He drove to Pleasant Valley Road. To the house he burned. Smoke no longer lingered in the air. But the memory of it had finally bled through the wall he'd built inside his mind, the wall the doctors helped him erect, brick by brick, through cognitive suppression, trauma erasure, synthetic memories. Alex Madsen was the plaster. But Daniel Carter had always been beneath it, screaming behind the drywall. He stepped through the threshold of the ruined house like a man walking into his own grave. The living room was hollowed out now. The beams bowed overhead. Glass crunched beneath his boots. He walked with the reverence of someone entering a tomb. The closet. It came to him like a ghost whisper. I waited in the closet when it got hot. He turned toward it. Charred wood. Metal hinges warped from heat. He gripped the handle and opened it slowly. Inside, blackened drywall. Melted plastic. A scorched stuffed animal. He dropped to his knees. A scream tried to claw out of his lungs but dissolved into a choking sob. His fingers brushed the floor, the edges of where she'd curled up, where she'd obeyed him. Don't move, baby. Daddy's coming back. But he hadn't. Because in the throes of a dissociative break, Daniel hadn't remembered to come back. He'd run, thinking he was saving her, thinking he'd already pulled her out. His mind had split again, fragmented to protect him. One piece ran into the woods. Another piece stayed and burned. The strongest piece, the coward, was the one who survived, and buried the rest. He stared into the closet, heart breaking open, blood pounding in his ears like thunder. The tinnitus surged. Louder. Sharper. But now he knew it was never just ringing. It was her. I called for you, she whispered. The air grew heavy. I screamed, and you didn't come. I didn't know, he sobbed. I didn't know you were still inside. Silence. Then, the smallest whisper. I forgive you. Daniel collapsed. Shoulders shaking. Body curled on the soot-covered floor. When he opened his eyes, the closet was empty. But a warmth filled the space. Like the sun had broken through 100 cold winters. A peace he hadn't earned, but one she had given anyway. 3 weeks later, Daniel checked himself into a long-term psychiatric facility under his true name. No aliases. No new beginnings. Ellen visited once. Left a photograph of Marjorie beside his bed. In the picture, she was laughing. Pure. Alive. He kept it facing him at all times. At night, he no longer heard the ringing. Just silence. And sometimes, when he let his eyes close, he heard her playing the piano. One note. Then another. Then peace.